Hey, what's up? It's John from the YouTube channel Pro Craps. Back in 2021, we did a 24-hour telethon to raise funds for the National Council on Problem Gambling. In fact, we raised over $6,000 to raise awareness and provide resources for those with gambling problems. As part of the telethon, we interviewed over 20 of the biggest names in gambling to get their perspective on gambling issues, gambling problems, their experiences, and of course have a little bit of fun with them. Here I am getting to talk with my good friend and the one and only El Toro from El Toro Dice Club. How are you? The world wants to know.
Oh, I'm doing good, buddy.
Yeah. So let's talk. We're doing this thing obviously for reasons of gambling problems and that kind of thing. And you do this, right? You play for purpose.
Yeah.
I'd like to know a couple things. One would be, what have you seen, heard, experienced in the world of gambling addiction or problem gambling? And then, because you're doing it for reals, what is your way to not get sucked into that?
Discipline,
Mm-hmm.
buddy. This is not for everybody, and I think really what I see a lot of is, a lot of people go out to have fun, which is great,
Mm-hmm.
but then you see a lot of folks out there that are thinking that this is going to be their means to having a short month, let's say financially. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of like that guy that plays the lottery ticket and says, "Golly, I hope I get a scratch off and win."
Yeah.
That's not the answer to their problem. If folks would really look deep into themselves, they'll figure out that they're, let's see, how can I say this properly, right? Uh, their outgoing is greater than their ingoing,
Totally. Yeah.
right? We
Yeah.
talk
Well,
about budget. You and I talk about budget when we're offline a
Mm-hmm.
lot,
Yep.
and too many of these folks, whether you know whether they're like me, I'm an alcoholic and I'm an addict, right? So I have to make a choice, and that choice is to not start because
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that off button. Well, other folks have this addiction, which is to gamble. They're never-ending optimists. They think that, hey, I'm going to get to the table and it's finally going to happen to me. It doesn't. It doesn't. Uh, when you and I talk about budgets, we talk about, what's your goal, right? My goal is, if I can double up my money, that's a great day.
Mm-hmm.
But if I walk away 20, 25%, 30%, I'm happy as can be.
Me too. You know that. The thing is,
Absolutely.
when you talk about, man, that's a good way to say it. Like, when you're an addict, and thanks for sharing, by the way, that's big
Oh,
deal.
you are too, though.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And the thing is, when you're addicted to something like physical, like food or smoking or alcohol, the end that you get from that is the high or the whatever, right? With gambling, and you're not chasing it. Like, you're not chasing another cigarette or whatever. In gambling, there's a physical loss that you got to go after, and it's a it's a vortex that you get sucked into
Hmm.
with it. And I think that's why gambling addiction to me is the worst kind, because there's that double negative. It's like, yeah, you're an addictive personality, and like all addictions, it causes pain to you and your family.
Yeah,
But man, I mean, you have to go for more. Like, you once you lose $1,000 and now you're blown rent, it's like, well, shit, now I got to win $2,000, and the
that's
cycle
right.
just goes and goes and goes, and it's like, it's tough. And I think you
So,
used the best word, which is discipline.
yeah, so last night, before I before I passed out, you know, I, I also day trade too, by the way. So
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to how people were talking about how gambling and day trading are similar. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'll tell you why. You know, day trading, When you buy or sell a position, you're only winning or losing on paper. You
Hmm.
don't realize the gain or the loss until you actually exit your trade. In craps, when you put your money on the table, pass line, box number, whatever, wherever you play, DC, once that hand is over, you've realized the loss.
In real time with real money.
Real time, real money.
Hmm.
And that's what we were talking about. Once you go in, if you're down $100, and I think Jacob was talking about this too, was when you're down $100, your next hand you got to make up another $100 plus the 100 you want to win just to break
Yeah.
even.
Yep.
You know, those are realized losses.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier about like regression systems, right? Regression systems they're great
Love them.
if you hit the number though, right? You got to come into a regression and hit the number. If you come into a regression and you're 220 inside or 320 across and they PSO you, well,
Sure.
now you got to work. You got to
That's
work to
right.
get back to where you started, and that's a bitch, right? And that's where
Hmm.
bankroll, right? And Jacob touched on this, about bankroll meets strategy is the way that you win, the marriage of those two,
Hmm.
and that's a big, and
Yeah.
I think that's where you kind of talk through. Um, Bankroll's a big deal for you.
Bankroll's huge. Huge is money management too, and that's the other thing I see too at the casinos a lot. Um, Unrealistic expectations
Mm-hmm.
with an unrealistic bankroll.
And no
Those two is
management
a
of it.
recipe. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yep.
You know, you can't walk in with, let's say, $500 or $200, $500, whatever you come in with, and expect to win thousands. Can it
Right.
happen? Sure, it can. There's
Mm-hmm.
always there's always something to be said about luck, dumb luck.
Yep.
But
Yeah. And
the
and
reality,
and
the reality of that happening, man,
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't count on it. So your
No,
your
I hear you.
expectation is like what you and I talk about, right? If you're going with $500, what is your expectation? Is it 20%? That's $100. Man, be happy with that. That's a 20% gain in an
Yep.
afternoon.
Yeah, we talk about it all
You
the
know,
time. It's like, frankly, anything positive is going to be good because, and I'm going to put a quote up here that you probably can't see this, but this is from PJ. He's a subscriber of mine, and he's interesting cat. Always has great things to say, and he says, "Stop comparing gambling to the stock market." And you're right; it's
I see
not
it.
a one for one, right?
That's
You
right.
can hold stocks over time; they grow in value. Gambling, when you're gambling in a casino, you are playing against somebody who's got an edge on you all the time, and they're in business to take your money. They're in business to siphon off of you, right? Stock market isn't like that. Stock market, everybody's trying to win. There's no house that's trying to screw you in a stock market, right? You may get screwed. You may make a bad decision. Your bankroll may not support what you're trying to do, but it's way different than craps or any other casino game where you're actually
Yeah.
fighting somebody who's unfairly advantaged, and that's the negative EV piece that he's talking about. We compare it to those things because the percentages, right? You're putting money at risk to win some reward, and it's about what's the amount of reward you're willing to be disciplined enough to accept. And that's the
Well,
hardest thing for me to teach when and I teach every day on this stuff, right? It's like that's the thing that we got to remember is like you're putting money at risk and you have some target in mind. That's what you're talking about. What's your goal?
yeah, that's exactly. Hey, I just want to real quickly say hey to Don.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Don Stanley's the one that's winning the El Toro Crystal.
What's that thing up to right
And
now?
then and to PJ Strong's point,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what really differentiates the gambling and stock market, right? Stock market is a long-term hold. If you decide to stay at the casino long-term hold, you're done. You're going to lose money. That's what it's designed for.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but again, this honestly, this isn't about stock market. This is what I see. I kind of compare it that way too because I have investments, and there's we all have diversified portfolios. We have good, quick, short term, long term. I look at the same thing as what's my short game, what's my long game, what's my
Mm-hmm.
whole objective of going to the casino, right? Am I going to have fun with my buddy Big Money Mike, or am I
Mm-hmm.
going to go make some money, make a living?
right? And what do you normally go for? What's your
I'm a
lock you down
50-50.
there?
I'm a
Yeah.
50-50. So when you go to the casino, right, you go in there, and if I'm by myself, I'm going in there for business. It's like Mike
Mm-hmm.
Tyson in the ring. I'm
Yep.
going there, I mean business. I'm not there to screw around. And that's why I said I'm quiet. I'm super quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there for a reason. I'm concentrating and
Right.
I'm hyper focused. But when I go with my buddy Big Money Mike, we go to have fun, but we also go to try to make money. But it's hard to do sometimes, especially when
Right.
one of them gets off script.
Which just sounds like he does every so often, right?
Oh my God, dude!
We
When I go see you in Seattle, we'll see how close to script you stay.
Oh, I am on script, dude. I'm on point. I'll deviate here and there and I talk about the trends, right? When I sense it, I'll deviate here and there, but I build the deviations in. Like I'm playing this, and when I see that, I'm going to go here, and here's the money for that diversion. I don't get a wild hair up my ass and go, you know what? We're just going to switch the entire thing and go. I don't do that, and you'll see that. I play with and Brian. I always talk about this because I play with Hawaii crap shooters, and they were like, you practice what you preach. Like you're like a maniac with my rack and the way I do things. And
Hmm.
I just, I got it figured out. I treat it like a business trip. Right. And I think
Hmm.
having this channel has helped me. And I say this quite a bit where I like the channel keeps me accountable to myself and to everybody else. Right. And when I was in Vegas this last time, I met up with somebody, one of our subscribers, and played with him. And we were talking. And I said, what I do at the table is I actually pretend I'm on camera. Now that I have a show, I do that, and I actually recite to myself what I would say, so I stay on point, and that's how I stay focused. I like literally probably my lips are probably moving like an idiot. I probably look like an idiot, out there, but I literally talk to myself as I go, like what's going to happen, and I do the baseball thing. I'm like, hey, if the 4 hits, I'm going to press to here, I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to collect 6. And when the 6 hits,
Are you saying you're doing incantations over there at the table, like
all
a
the
Harry
time.
Potter?
If people seriously, if people saw me now, and I know that they don't, right? But if I was literally on, like if they were zoom the camera in on me, right, and watch my face as because I'm sure my mouth is moving when I'm doing this. It'd be like the people from the 21 show. Like they're like, where's the microphone? Who's he talking to? Like it
Oh
might
my
look like
God!
that. But I literally do that. I say to myself, in this role, if the 4 hits, we're gonna go up to 15. I'm gonna pull 6. If whatever, and I got the whole thing figured out. No matter what number hits, and I got my chips or my rail are ready to drop,
Yeah,
and I have them in a row. And so if the 8 comes, I've got whatever $2 sitting in my rack. I drop it in. I say go to 30. And I've got my presses figured, and I'm just on. And that way I can talk. And if I feel like if I'm a machine, we can have fun, and I can still not fuck it up. And that's
yeah,
kind of how I look at it. You know what I mean? And
yeah. Well,
it's
see,
fun, but it's also work.
that's the difference between you and I as and others, right? So once once we figure out that, hey, we've got these addictive personalities, and we like to just I don't even know what the word for this is, right? Where we go we go all in on something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness it's not gambling, because you were probably the best of the best chain smokers.
Oh my God, dude, I was 3
I
packs a
was the
day.
best of the best. I was the best of the best drinkers.
Oh man, I was 3 packs a day. And if I could have stayed awake longer, I would have smoked more.
Yeah, right.
Like seriously, I
I
smoked a
feel
lot.
sorry for, but I don't feel sorry for him. It's so tough to realize when you're dealing with real
Mm-hmm.
dollars to get
Mm-hmm.
out of that cycle,
Yeah.
and that's the tough part. And that's why I really just kind of like what you're doing here, and I think we could raise a lot more money. And I saw a bunch of chats. I know they were some of them maybe a little bit off color about some of this, what it was, but the
Mm-hmm.
reality is that the innocents, the spouses that are the ones having to deal with it, if
Mm-hmm.
those families have children, those kids are the ones that are having to watch as this
Yeah.
thing goes on. They're the ones that are the real, they're the ones suffering.
Oh yeah, and
And I think that's what this is about.
it's collateral damage, right? And that's a big deal. And I
Huge.
said this earlier. You might have been asleep because I've been talking now for 20 straight hours. It seems like.
I don't know how you're doing it, bro.
Not me neither. It's just you know, just on fumes, right? But um, the collateral damage of the family and all that is a part of it. But I think I lost my train of thought now with the addictive personality. It's like you. I think there's a piece that doesn't connect, right? And whatever, and it takes logic out of the equation, and it takes the ability to make a decision out of the equation when you're in that mindset. If you have that kind of a mind, right? If you are an addicted to food or whatever it is, right? There's definitely a piece of you that doesn't work, right? In some cases, there's
Mhm.
medication. In some cases, there's counseling, but there's a bit of personal responsibility has to come. You have to make the decision to not want to be that way, but you need help to not be that way. I don't think you can just go, I'm good. You know,
Well,
if everybody
that's
could snap
the
their fingers and do the right thing, we wouldn't be burning our fucking cities down. Right.
well, that's
That's
yeah,
the thing.
that's exactly right. And I'll
Sorry for
say
the
this,
language, but I've been up too long.
YouTube. No, I mean you're passionate about it, just like I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say this: this is some of the good and the bad about YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a gambling addict, you've got now access to everything on your cell phone, YouTube, while you're at the casino, looking for that, nugget, right? That says, okay, this is
Mm-hmm.
what I'm going to do to get me out of trouble. That's why, as the content providers, we've got to be really, really careful what we put out there.
Oh yeah.
And for me, again, it's I don't sell anything. It's just school of hard
Mm-hmm.
knocks for me. And I think you and I talked
Yeah.
about this before. Is
Mm-hmm.
the reason I'm so quiet and the reason I don't want folks to recognize me is I feel guilty, man, at the table if someone recognizes me and I point seven out. Which, yes, it happens.
Mm-hmm. No
You
question.
know, I feel bad because their level of expectation of you is unrealistic.
Yeah. There's pressure to that too, right? I've played with people and they've said things like when the dice come to me, it's like, oh, this is why I came. This is what I'm here to
Yeah,
watch. And I'm like, fuck, don't do that to me.
exactly.
I don't know what's going to happen here.
Yeah,
There's pressure there for sure.
absolutely.
But
Absolutely. I mean, I've got a conscience about it, and that's why I said I try to stay as quiet as possible. Hey,
yeah.
looking through the comments here, I like it. So, California Craps Club, you're exactly right. The I don't know if anybody here remembers, but it was 36 full press.
Mm-hmm.
He and I are still good friends. Just kind of going back to this little thing about the Craps Nation, that
Mm-hmm.
it was probably like early, early in the morning, through 2, 3 in the morning. Dex and I were chatting it up and came up with the idea of having a Craps Nation. And then, of course, neither one of us were tech savvy or technology savvy. So that's where George came in and started putting it all together,
Mm-hmm.
which was great, And it kind of evolved into this. So it started out with, I think, a group of 9 of us kind of getting together on a Sunday and playing. And we were testing out softwares and whatnot, which was pretty cool. And now it's grown into something
It's
it's
big.
big. I mean, it's pretty good sized. It's pretty
Yeah.
good
I
sized.
mean, you look in the Craps Nation, the Skype and all that stuff, there's 160 people in there now.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I don't.
we said this when Dave Carlin was on. Not everybody's got to have a YouTube channel and be some expert,
Yeah,
right? That's not the
yeah, but
point
it's a
of it.
place.
It's
It's a place you can go.
100%. And there's the meetups are, I haven't been yet, right? Because I've missed 2 of them because of travel and family and other stuff. But it's it's a collective, and it's like and you know this, the community that you've got with your subscribers. I'm starting to build that. I have a smaller, obviously much smaller group, but with Craps Nation and everybody kind of coalescing around it, it's really cool. It's like a miniature family. My
Yeah,
my my, my wife calls you all my crappy friends. Um, can somebody maybe stop the spammer again? But yeah, you're all my crappy friends, and I think that's great. And I think it's one of these things that I didn't expect to have happen. Right when I started the channel, I expected to kind of just do a thing, and here it comes. Right?
I never thought I was going to have a following at all. I
Yeah,
never
I wouldn't
even.
call
That's
it.
not even when I started it.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a following. It's following sounds like you got disciples or something like that, right? It's just people that are like minded, and
Well, there
it's a
you go.
community. It's a
I
community, and
never
it's
thought I
like,
was going to have a. I never thought I was going to have one subscriber. Period.
well, I knew I'd have one because I made my son do it. My son was my first, and that was And Craps live in the casino CSL. He was my second subscriber. He actually thinks he was the third. I'm like, no, it was me. It was my son and my wife, and then me. And then you came in. Is the first actual like human that saw anything I ever did. And like it's kind of fun to talk about that stuff, but it's real, right? It's like this community that you built and these friends. And I've never Dan Tana, right, is here, and I can't put this comment up because it doesn't make any sense. But Dan Tana is a guy that I've never met. I've never even seen his face, but I consider him a friend because we talk all the time, and you get to know folks. It's pretty damn cool doing this. I wish I can get paid for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wish it actually paid money. Like it doesn't pay any money.
I see all Dan Tana's comments. I mean, he's making sense. Chance favors a prepared mind. Yeah, it sure does.
Mm-hmm.
When luck happens, be ready. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that to me is the basis of the regression strategy for me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of when I started out I did an El Toro 200 for what was the minimum, because I had a lot of folks always ask me what's the minimum I can walk up to a table with.
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought about it, since I don't walk in with a minimum, right? I was like, well, let me see. And to me, that was like, oh wow, that was my oh wow moment.
Yeah.
How
It's
do I make
hard.
this? And then my wife and I talked about it, and we were talking. She says, whatever you do, she says, whatever you do, remember that everyone has a budget. So, and I owe a lot of this to my wife anyway. She's so strong. She says to me, make sure that all your strategies, whatever you put out there, is scalable from the entry level craps player with a small budget to someone who has your budget, right? It's all the same. A loss is a loss is a loss. And that's one of the things that you got to look at is uh, no matter what, try to keep it where it's scalable to the comfort level of the player. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Totally.
And
I talk about
the other
units
feed.
a lot.
I've seen a lot of guys in here. Smart guy, 5552, I think, 555 craps. I don't know his name, but
Greg.
He talks Greg. Okay, so Greg, sorry about that, buddy. I think I've seen him say people usually bet way above their means, and I know you and I talk about that too. That's so damn true.
Well, they bet above their means. They bet above their means, and Jacob said this again. You got to have bankroll to make your strategy work. It's a marriage there. They bet above their means, and what Greg and I talk about offline a lot is people betting above their skill level. And I know that people will say there's no skill. I'm looking right here. There's no skill, right? A lot of folks will say that, but you can look at like somebody who thinks they can throw the dice. Me, I'm not a great dice thrower yet, right? Short into my career of learning how to actually throw the dice correctly. I certainly would never bet on myself high because I know I ain't there yet.
Skill.
I'm not going to outbet my skill, which my skill is 0, right? And the folks who think,
come on, don't say that.
It's all right. It's a 6 out of 10, right? Which
that's
I'm a 6 out of 10 anyway, right? I'm matching it all, right? But if that's your skill level, then you bet below that. You don't bet above when I was in high school, here's the story for you. And this is actually a sad story, another sad John story. When I was in high school, I wrestled, right? My sport was wrestling because I'm short and I'm wide, right? So I was always a wrestler. I tried playing football. It didn't work because I didn't weigh enough. I played catcher in baseball. So that's my body type. So I wrestled, and I always wrestled overweight, right? I always wrestled. So when I was in high school, I weighed like 165, 170. I wrestled 188.
Oh, okay.
And I did it for 2 reasons. One is I wanted to never I never wanted to have to hold back. I always felt like, and this is cocky, right? I always felt like I was gonna, if I wrestled at my weight, I was too strong, and I wanted to be able to go all in. But I also didn't want to have to cut weight. And I always felt like if you cut weight wrestling, and those of you out there who coach and know wrestling, if you cut weight, I feel like that make you weak. So I always wrestled above weight, and I think that was a mistake in some respects. I had a good time eating and working out as hard as I wanted to and building muscle. But I lost a lot of matches because it turns out the guys that weigh 15 pounds more than you, pretty much going to be stronger than you. And a lot of them are longer and bigger than you and can tie you in a knot, right?
Yeah.
So outplaying your weight in that sport
Yeah.
didn't help. I actually broke my back wrestling. That's why my back is bad. And
Well,
it's not
that's
good
just
for you in
like
craps
this,
either.
right? It's
Not good
just
for you
like
in
this.
craps either.
Don't outbet your bankroll. And you got to
Yeah.
look, and that's kind of what I look at too. So I have a different approach to bankroll and
Hmm.
bankroll management. Think about it like this, right? And this is something you and I talked about. I want to say
Hmm.
like 4 or 5 nights ago. You asked me, how do you play your strategies? And
Hmm.
I was telling you, hey, like if I play the ATS, that's a strategy. And if I play it at, let's call it $5 a spot, right? That's a $15
Hmm.
in action just for that strategy times 10 shooters is, $150, right? Add that to my next strategy. So what's my
Hmm.
total net all in? Add how many different strategies I'm going to play, and that's what it's going to be. And then
Hmm.
from there, I've got that, I bring additional money that I call that I lost my mind money because I didn't follow my strategy. Or my big money Mike bailout money.
Like, damn it, Mike. Now I got to put this extra in, right? It's funny because and somebody asked me earlier today about that same thing, because I do the rule of tens, right? I got my 10 shooters up there. I usually bring an extra 300 when I'm playing at a bigger, I'm there for a win, that I play my 212 strategy with, right? And that's a separate little bankroll just for that, like you're doing for the ATS. I do it with the 2 and the 12, which I parlay those things up. It's actually kind of fun, but it doesn't
Yeah.
affect anything else. That's a side bet, and that's like the ATS to me is a side bet. It's like if you can throw 150 at it, I'll throw 300 at the 12, and that's fine. And I do have a little bit of extra money too. I call it my
Yeah.
hedging stack, which is like if I feel like I need to hedge or I want to drop an extra lay or an
Ugh.
extra odds, I have this extra thing. It's not part of every shooter, but it's just here, you know.
Oh,
So
I can't stand hedging. Sorry,
yeah,
Vince.
I know. Hey
I
Vince.
can't stand hedging. Scotty, how you doing, bud? Yep, Scotty Free. Talking to you, buddy.
Yep.
No, I don't like I don't do a hedging at all. I I choose I just kind of choose to play my box numbers and
Mhm.
that's it.
Yeah, I don't hedge a lot. I do a lot of transition strategies. So I'll do a lot of, I'll play the don't and the box for a little bit, but I'll remove one or the other based on
Mm,
the trend that I'm feeling. So I use them in tandem for a couple of rolls, and then I make a choice, but I want to make sure I hit that first number.
yeah. Well, I'm a regression king. I love to regress.
Hmm.
Yes, I put more money out front, but to me it's the amount of losses I've sustained are a lot less than the wins.
Hmm.
Now that kind of
Well,
goes back to one of the other comments there. It says be prepared. When you regress down to table minimum on that point, I'm prepared. I'm ready because from there I'm just boosting it.
right. Which is what you want to do anyway.
So
And I've given this
yeah,
example a lot, but when you get down to table minimum and you get the good roll, doesn't matter.
yeah,
You're 3 presses behind on a 60 roll or a 40 roll. Big deal.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
what
I never
if
worry
you're
about I never worry about what I miss. You know.
right. Yeah. FOMO is a real thing for a lot of people, and you can't play that way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, just for free beer. Come on.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Well, if you do the do we don't, you're gonna get or you hedge it, you're gonna get all that all the what do you call it? You get to stay there forever, and you get the little bit of comp action and stuff like that.
You don't get
A lot of
any
people
comp
are
action.
yeah, no, well, I don't care about comps. I'm the anti comp person because I could give a crap. I don't need a room or your food. I I I just feel like that's kind of a suck job. I know people factor that in. I don't, and I'm probably wrong
No.
about that, but I just don't worry about it. I don't even have players
And
cards.
yeah,
I just
comps
don't
are
even have
nice to
them.
have. Comps are
Yeah,
nice to have.
they're cool. But yeah, I don't. It doesn't do anything for me, so I just ignore them.
Yeah. So, anywho,
Yeah. So, quick question for you. 'Cause a lot of people are asking, and I don't know why we're going down this road here, but I'm going to ask you the dice control question because everybody keeps asking me. I'm doing the big series, right?
mhm,
Which everybody has said you're crazy to do the series, right? Greg said to me when I first said, "Hey, Greg," I called him and I'm like, "Dude, I'm going to do a dice control." He's like, "That's channel suicide. What are you doing? You're gonna piss off
mhm.
half your audience no matter what,
No,
right?"
you're not.
And I told him I'm taking a 60 minutes approach to it. Like I practice throwing, right? Because I think two things, right? I think number one, it's something to practice, which that's what I do. And number two, I feel like if you're not trying to improve or trying to increase your edge, you may as well play a slot where they tell you if you win. And I know that's baby sounding, right? But that's kind of like, I want to feel like I'm trying. Like I want to, I'm going to practice free throws because I might get on the foul line someday, right? That's how I look at it. Do I believe in it now after I've seen the slow-mo, after I've done the series, and I've really taken, I think, you can correct me if I'm wrong, a pretty down the middle approach to it. Like my videos, I'm trying to sell both sides, the truth. And having seen the slow-mo, and you've seen the videos too, and you're a thrower.
I've seen my own.
You've seen your own on the slow-mo. I'm sure you have. Where do we land on it? Where do we land on that? And I think there's dice control, dice influence, controlled shooting, experienced shooter, and what I try, which is energy. I'm an energy control guy. Where do you land on the whole thing? And I'll give my answer as well.
All right. I love it. Love the questions, right?
Yep.
So dice control, I think is a term that is misused, probably misunderstood. I call myself a dice influencer, and I call myself that for a reason, or an advantage player. That's really what I am. Now, regarding the dice, I can control the dice from the time from the time they're given to me to the time they hit my landing zone. That's my control. I can control my controllable. That's it. After that, I can't control the reaction of those dice. I can't control what they're going to do given on any given pyramid at the back. What we try to do is it's like I was telling you, I try to toss them low with just enough energy to get down there so that it reduces the explosions and the randomness that comes with hitting that back wall. If you can get them close to that little the bottom piece where there's no pyramid, you're gonna have a little bit more success, about that stuff, about those dice. I mean, it's such a tough question to answer, right?
Really
controlled, dice controllers. I don't believe that. Can you sharpshoot? Yeah, you can. But am I there? No, not with the ability to say, yeah, I'm 100% sharpshooter and I can call out my numbers within 2 or 3 every 5 minutes.
Right.
I'm not there yet. I'm working my way there, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
It is a thing, right?
It's an interesting thing. And there's lots of good comments here. I'm going to scroll up and get to some of these things too. And PJ saying what you're saying, right? Everybody's dice control until they hit the wall, and then it's random. And I always say there's degrees of random. And by what I mean by degrees of random is if they hit the wall with low energy, not every face is available to appear. You reduce the number of possible combinations. That's reducing the degree of randomness. That may thicken the number of sevens. It may loosen the number of sevens, but that's the low energy thing. You can't, even with the slowest energy to the wall, and I've slow-moed myself like with almost no action on the wall, you'll still see 4 or 5 faces on each die show up. It's almost impossible to control, but you do this, and somebody is gonna put this out here. California Craps Club says El Toro was the first to talk about dominant numbers. And and again, even in my infancy in this world of trying to learn how to do it, I find dominant numbers. I'm finding that when I throw a certain way, and I end up with like, hey, why am I getting so many 9s? Like, what's up with the 9s? And it just seems to. And again, I can't explain it. I look at the slow-mo and go, that was a disaster. The slow-mo to me, and I showed all those shots in the video were my slow-mos looking like car accidents, right? And I'm like, there's no way I'm controlling the dice. Yet my clusters of numbers end up being, the 6 and the 9. I throw a ton of those things and it's like, don't know why it happens. And I can turn a die. I can turn one die and go, now I'm throwing 4s and 10s. And it's still the same car accident at the end of the wall. I don't know why it works. And that's why, to answer PJ's question, do I believe in it? I believe in God too, and I can't prove it. It's childlike faith, right? And that's how I feel about it. It's a childlike faith. I just know in my being that I'm not alone here. And I know in my being that somehow those damn things are coming out nines. And I don't know how it works.
Hmm. Well, there's another thing too. There's another thing too, John. So dice control also has to do with your mechanics and controlling your mechanics
Hmm.
and really honing in your skills to your mechanics. There's a video I put out a while, yeah, a long time ago. There's
Hmm.
a video I put out there that actually had nothing to do, and I even told everybody on the video, uh, this has nothing to do with dice sets. Uh, it has everything to do with your mechanics and how you hold true to those. If you can practice your your mechanics of how you toss the dice and be consistent with your grip, your landing zone, whether you like to rotate the dice forward, backwards, or toss knuckleballs, if you can be consistent with all of those things, it doesn't matter what that dice set's going to be. Because when they scramble up at the end, they're going to scramble. Now, how much they
Hmm.
scramble is
Right.
determined on a couple things, right? And this
Hmm.
is probably where your physics guy comes in. Velocity
Hmm.
times the, or what is it? What, I can't even remember the dang formula from my old physics day, but it has something to do with velocity. It has something to do
Hmm.
with the angle that the dice are coming in at, and then
Yep.
how much energy is dispersed when they hit the table.
That's right.
Now I know
Well,
this.
it's about what,
I'm not a
yeah,
physicist, right? But I do know this.
no. And it's what percentage
The
of the
less
die hits
surface
the
area,
table,
yeah,
right?
the less surface area of the die
Yeah.
that hits the table, the more explosive they're going to be.
Yeah. And it hits the back wall with that much, with like no energy reduced. When they hit flat, it sucks 40% of the energy off on a flat hit. If it hits on the edge, nothing got reduced. And it
That's
hits the
right.
back wall. Full steam ahead hits the back wall,
That's right.
And so that's the thing where I look at it and go, okay, you're right. You can control it to the table hit, and then hopefully you set them up to like not go completely all over the place. That's the best you can hope for. And like I said, I can't explain why I see clusters. When I look at slow mo, it blows my mind. I'm like, there's no way I'm doing anything positive here, but it seems to
Well,
work
because
for me. You know?
you're not looking at what your dice are doing at the end. So
Yeah,
being a little random is like being a little pregnant. I love that
I
one.
love that. Yeah, isn't that great?
So what you got to look at, John, is this, and is every time you throw the dice, right? It depends what your dice are doing.
Hmm.
It's how they're ending up overall. How
Right.
they're ending up. Is your right die always double pitching? Is it, exploding, imploding? What's happening there, right? At the end result. And it's not just as simple as that, because if it were just implode and explode one turn,
Hmm.
2 turns, that would be great, right? We could easily figure out how to manipulate those dice and come up with a result. The problem is those dice will spin, turn, go diagonal. They do all kinds of stuff
Hmm.
depending on how your mechanics are on those dice are, right? You're not consistent with your speed into the wall. You're not, it's not consistent. That's why you get different
Right.
results. Now, the dice sets that you use based on your mechanics are going to yield you the same grouping of numbers no matter what. That's,
Right.
I don't know why it's that way. It just does.
Hmm.
Uh, it just does. Uh,
And it's interesting.
you're right, PJ Strong. Hey, yeah, it's
Yep.
right here. PJ Strong's right.
Yep. Yep.
Low energy doesn't reduce the randomness. It just
There's.
reduces the amount of space that those dice are going to rebound. It's just like a tennis ball. If you play tennis and hit the ball against the wall, if you barely get it there, it's going to bounce back at you not very far. But if you knock the crud out of it, it's going to fly right back at you. Or ping pong, right? Same type of
Mhm.
thing. Um, no one's denying that the dice are random after they hit the table and hit the back wall.
Mhm.
It's just how do you manipulate those dice to reduce the amount of revolutions or turns or
That's what I'm looking at. The
yaws or
amount of
skews. I
revolutions.
mean, that's what I
Yep.
do.
I'm trying to reduce revolutions. That's the entire thing. And I said when I look at my good throws under slow motion, you'll see that only on one die, only two faces ever turn. It's off the wall and it's boom, and they stick and die. And if you can
Mm-hmm.
do that, I still get sevens. They're still random which two faces are there, but
Hmm.
you potentially don't have a match. And I think that's the best I think I can hope for. And somebody brought up the
Hmm.
robot, and without going to a huge rabbit hole here,
Hmm.
because that's a whole video in itself,
No.
the robot study was done in a way that was trying to disprove it, right? Which is fine. Most 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 hypotheses have a goal in mind of what they're trying to prove or disprove, but they measured the wrong things and they threw it the wrong way, which is unfortunate. It wasn't a consistent throw. It didn't have it was missing a lot of pieces to it, and all they measured was sevens. They didn't measure
Well, I'll
anything
say
else.
this.
And
I'll say
you
this,
know, it
brother.
was
All this stuff that y'all do, that you guys are doing to prove or disprove it, it makes my head freaking hurt.
I know.
It's not
Yep.
that hard, man.
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
that hard. Everybody
Well,
trying to overcomplicate the game.
yeah. And
It's
you know what
simple,
else?
man.
Here's the other thing to it, right? And I think this is kind of funny. Now, unless you're a don't player, this doesn't apply to you. And I've said this on other interviews I've done here today, is this: somebody setting the dice is trying to do good for you, right? If you're a right side better and I'm setting the dice, you should be happy that I'm setting the dice. Like, God forbid I understand what I'm doing. What if I figured it out? You should be happy that I'm doing it, right? Not the belittling stuff that we see all the time. And I think that's what I'm like. That's the series I'm trying to solve there, go with here, is like, hey, there's a little bit of something here. Nobody, yeah, right. When nobody's getting hurt by trying it. In fact, we're trying to do something good. If you think it's silly, who cares, right? If you think it's silly that I go to church, who cares? It doesn't affect you either way, other than it makes you wait 4 seconds or 10 seconds instead of 2 seconds for the dice to come. That's the only effect on your life. And it shouldn't matter unless you're a don't player and I'm good at it and I'm taking your money, which is, a shame.
I see you. I see you, Dylan. I was getting there. I was waiting for
Yep. Yep.
Sean to finish. So, uh, Dylan wants to know, uh,
I did
am I
not see this question.
retired? Am I retired forever? No, 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 I'm not. And what do I think the future holds for me? Uh, El Toro for president. No, just kidding. I I'll be coming back. Yeah, I believe I'm gonna probably get back. I'm gonna get back. I think January. Um, we
Mhm.
moved. My table has been retired for a while. Uh, plus I was down and out for a while. I got blasted with COVID. It was a 2 month ordeal. I couldn't I couldn't even function. I
Mm.
wasn't sure what was going to happen to me actually, and that's no joke either, man. That stuff is brutal. So after I got out of it, I had the hardest time getting back into it, or getting the energy and the desire and the spark,
Mm.
to get back to my table and start practicing. I mean, shoot, I didn't even go to the casinos. And after you don't go, it's like not going to the gym for a while. It's so damn hard to get back there, right? So,
Yeah.
and of course, here I am, this time of year where I usually don't go anyway. Just, you know, usually it's family time.
Hmm. And this takes a lot
So,
out of you too. I mean, doing these shows every day takes a lot out of you.
oh, buddy, and you
You
know
know.
how to program and video, do whatever. For me, I'm
Mhm.
just I don't know how to do any of this crap.
Well, and you're
So,
you're not quite settled yet. You moved, but you're not quite
no,
moved
we're
yet.
not settled
So,
at all. I'm still in the damn. We're still sitting in a hotel until we get the certificate of occupancy to move in.
mhm.
Once we get that, then it's going to take a little bit. I'll get the table back up, and then get the
Right.
cameras, kind of get the studio semi set up, which will be great. Have
Mhm.
to bring my kids up to help me do that. But yeah, it's going to come back next year, so that
That's good.
we'll be starting back hopefully in January with you know with some videos. I got a lot of
That's
stuff.
awesome.
One of the things that I will, and I'll say this to everybody who's out there: I haven't been on a casino table or my house table for maybe 6 months.
Hmm.
So one of the very first things I'm going to put out here for my video is, you know, has to do with muscle memory. We're going to see, really, because we all talk about it, including myself.
Mhm.
I'm going to see on a live show, do I really have muscle memory? Is that something that does have an effect on how these dice go. And
Hmm.
what's my 7 out ratio, right? We're gonna see. So I'm kind
Yeah,
of excited about
it'll be
doing a
interesting
video
for
like that.
sure. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think what you find, I can predict. Here's my predict. Write this down. You're gonna have great success out of the gate. It's like golf, right?
Dude,
When I haven't
I'm gonna point 7 out because if it's like golf, buddy,
no,
I'll be in the woods.
because here's the thing, man. The fates have it in for you because I haven't golfed in forever, right? I last time I golfed was probably 3 or 5 years ago. It's been a long time. I was good when I was younger. Um, and I went with a buddy and did great. I had a good round, right? We had a good time. I shot like at 87 or something like that, and it had probably been 10 years since I played. And then I went, oh, that was good. I muscle memory, right? It's all good. And what happens is the big muscle groups figure it out, and then you
Yeah,
start messing with the minutia. And then
that's
you get to the
well
driving
in
range. Hey, let me
craps.
just try changing my grip. Let me try and let me start more square. And before you know it, you're slicing everything and you're shooting a 102 and you're pissed. So you're gonna have a
Well,
great first
in
week
craps,
and a
it's all
really
about the small. It's all about the
it's
little ones.
it is. You're gonna have you'll have a good backswing. You'll have the major motions down, but you're gonna be pleasantly surprised at first, and then you're gonna go, John, the hell am I doing
Well,
over here? After
my biggest, my own personal challenge for me is, can I still throw the damn knuckleball? Can I still
Mm,
throw those dice dead to rights, man? Can I
right.
toss it? I don't know. That's such a hard thing to do, man.
Well, it's hard to do anything consistently and they're so small and there's so many variables, right? There's so many
Yeah.
variables to it. That's the thing. It's golf is a good analogy. I always use the golf analogy with throwing because there's so many moving parts to both things. Golf doesn't have the back wall, but everything else holds true. There's the grip, the backswing, the
Hmm.
stance, and all the motion and the energy and all the things you're trying to do it's very, very close in terms of the amount of skill you have to have and the skill you got to bring to the table essentially for every single shot. The difference is you don't.
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
see that. I see that. Yeah,
James.
yeah. Wow.
Oh
Here we are, an
shit.
hour 22, getting political, right? Let's just have
I know,
you got
right?
right. And what's funny is I don't have the energy to stop it. It's like, yeah, whatever. Oh my god.
I guess we know where your audience stands, man.
Yeah, that's funny. No, that's hysterical. You got my vote too, man. I'm with.
I love
I'll
it.
be your running mate. All right.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's some funny shit right
El
there.
Presidente. That's funny. That is too damn funny.
I love the community, man. It's just something
Yep.
else, you know.
Oh no,
It's
let's go,
I think
Brandon.
I
Now
think
we're
Oh
now we're
God, is it rolling now? It's
it's
now
rolling.
we're
You guys
starting.
have got to stop this. It's gonna get out of hand soon. Um,
Oh, we got a
yeah.
let's go,
Oh,
Brandon. I love it.
yeah. William, this is a great thing. I love this. The goal of golf is to play as little golf as possible.
That's right.
The goal of DI
Back when
is
I
to play
played
as
golf,
much
it
as
was drink.
possible. That's right. That's funny. Oh my gosh, that's a really good way of
Shoot.
saying that. But yeah, I think the goal of
No.
golf, different goals, but all the
Hey, so one
all
of
the
the things I
tiny
do want to
muscles,
touch on,
man,
one of the things I want
go
to
for it.
touch on you and I talked about was,
Yep.
and I know you talked about it, and with some of the other guests, was the team play.
Yeah, that was. You know what? It's on my list of my next things. Can you go a little longer? Do you mind? I think Jeremy's going to be a little
I
late
don't
getting
mind.
in. He's at the airport,
You
so
know
yeah,
me. You know me.
yeah,
You and I talked for 2 hours, and it felt like 10 minutes.
100%. Let's talk team play because you and Big Money Mike play as a team. I have done probably 5 shows on this, right? Where I'm like, if we were sharing a bankroll, how would we play? Because I don't think if we're both doing the
Mhm.
same strategy, that'd be stupid, right?
So
How do you approach it?
on your show when you had a square pair, you
Yep.
guys were doing the team play thing, and that's where I first kind of chimed in with you, I think.
Hmm.
And everybody was playing the same or wanted to play the same strategy. So to me, that is not the way to do team play because everybody loses on the
Hmm.
exact same rolls, just different levels of bankroll. That's all.
Yep. That's right.
So if one loses, everyone loses. If one wins, everyone wins, right? That's kind of the baseline of it, right? Now, the way Big Money Mike and I when we do it, it's kind of fun. So Big Money Mike is I've known Mike for God, years, man, years, best friend. and we'll drive up, and we live in Dallas, so we'll drive up to Choctaw, right where Dan I think is,
Hmm.
Don, where Don is. So we'll drive up to Choctaw, and on our way up there, it's about an hour drive. We'll talk about, hey, how are we going to play? How are you going to play? Blah, 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 blah. What's your dice set going to be? What do you think my dice set should be? And, we have all this, the pregame play.
Hmm.
So we get there and we kind of start out that same way. I'm pretty dedicated to how I play because I do it so often, right? So to me, it's like second nature. If I'm playing one strategy, I'm just going to play it. And if I see the table turn, I'm going to flip to a different strategy to make sure that I maintain. I'm not a one strategy kind of guy. But so my buddy Mike will tell me, hey, I'm going to play this strategy and this is what I'm going to do. And we go in and let's say we buy in for, X amount of dollars each. And at the end of the night, if he's down and I'm up, we pretty much get even first,
Hmm.
get both of us back to whole, and then whatever's left we split. So let's call it 500 bucks and 500 bucks, right? Is our net. That's our buy-ins each. And if he's down $200 and I'm up $200, it's a wash,
Hmm.
right? We both net 500 bucks each. We're back to even. Now let's say he's up 1,000 and I'm down 200. Well, then we've got $800 to divvy up, $400 each, right?
Hmm.
Now that's kind of how the bankroll management of it works, or the bankroll portion of it works when you split it.
Right. And that's
Now
because
when
it's a combined purse, right? It isn't like
it's a
you're
combined purse, yeah, you're just
right.
playing
And
two different strategies, right?
exactly.
Or two different
Yes, it's
ways.
not. Yep, got it.
Now the the tough part about that is when you're like me, when I'm watching my strategy and I'm watching his strategy starts to change. So
Right.
he doesn't quite stick to the plan. So I'm usually the one that's kind of the conservative player all of a sudden, right? Instead
Hmm.
of being the a heavy player. It's a little bit tough to do. But all in all, when I go with him, it's to have fun. Bottom line with him, he and I go to have fun because like I said, it's not
Sure.
a. He's got a really good job, does real well financially. Um, he doesn't need to go to the casino to make money.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
he's
it it
like
it
most
speaks
everybody
to
else. They
discipline.
work for a living, right?
Yeah, it speaks to discipline though, right? If you're disciplined with, like you say, you always joke about him going off kilter, right? But
Yeah, he
if you're
does.
both here, right, that discipline that you got here is good, right? That's kind of what you're looking for,
Yeah. So
you
the
know.
more the more the more to the left he goes, the more conservative I
You've
get.
got to pull it back in again, right? And which changes your
Oh God,
mindset
yeah,
at the table too, right? So that's interesting,
yeah.
you know.
And it's fun though. I mean, I have fun with him. It's always good. I mean,
Oh sure. What do
uh,
you find when you're playing team play?
yeah.
We've both said this, and it's true, right? You can't play the same thing. You can't play. I know that George may or may not be here with us right now, but George, I know when George did the team play show, he basically had everybody playing the exact same strategy. It was all across, and it was
Uh-huh.
at different bet levels and at different pullbacks. Like one person was across high regress, one person was one hit and down, one person was three presses and out, but it was all the same numbers. They just did it, managed the money on the numbers differently, but it's still the same numbers.
That's
The
right.
same thing still wrecks all of you at certain points in
Well,
time. How did you approach it?
yeah, yes or no, yes or no, right? If you put more money down, then you're going to be winning a lot more money per point hit.
Hmm.
You're offsetting the losses of the other guy, right?
Yep. That's what the
So I
thought
mean,
process
that's
was for sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's the thought process of it. It does kind of work that way, uh, as long as there's different variations of betting levels, right?
Hmm.
But the better way, to me, the way I've seen it more successful when Mike and I go, our outings are always more successful when we're both playing two different types of strategies. Now, Hawaii crap shooters, uh, it's not because there's a trend on the table that he changes his plan. I think it's because he finally gets lubricated with alcohol and he just loses his mind. Just kidding. I know he's watching too.
That's
he,
funny.
no, we just like to have fun when we go. We like to have a
Mhm.
lot of fun when we go.
So when you say different strategy, how do you guys approach? I don't, you don't have to give it all away, but I mean, is it more like place bets? Are you like one guy's inside, one guy's
So
outside, one guy
no, so
pressing,
my
one guy not?
yeah, so I like to put place bets in. I like to put
Mm-hmm.
place bets. My buddy
Yep.
Mike loves to play. He loves to play come bets, right?
Mm-hmm.
He loves to play come bets, which is awesome. And he does his own come bet strategy. He'll do, I guess it's you do three come bets and then down. He does pretty good at that.
Yep.
I'll play the hard ways whenever I get to a certain level, on a place bet. So if my even
Mm-hmm.
numbers are at, uh, let's call it a black chip, then a quarter's going on the hard ways each. Because it's a no brainer to lose the $25
Yep.
on the the off chance that you hit it right. It's worth the risk. It's worth the risk. Uh, and then every now and then Mike, he'll just he'll play that. He'll just get that wild hair and says, hey, give me a 12. It's
Right.
right in the middle of nowhere, and he'll do that a few times.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll both decide who's playing. We'll figure out who's going to play the ATS. We may do that. I'll play it one guy, and then
Mm.
he'll play it the next guy. So our bankroll stretches for our ATS strategy, right, at
Sure.
different levels. Or when I'm shooting, I will typically hit the smalls first. So I'll usually go super heavy on the ATS small, throw a quarter up there,
Hmm.
uh, and then quarter 5-5 or quarter 5-10, whatever,
Interesting.
so that we'll play it that way too.
Because
But then
you
again, my
cluster down
budget,
low. Interesting.
yeah, I cluster them down at the bottom for some weird reason. Uh, the 5 is down on the small side too.
Mm-hmm. That's your
I'll
number,
bang
right?
out that. I'll bang out that 5, man. I don't know why. I just bang it out. But that's kind of what we do is we make our bankroll set up a certain way so that it stretches us
Mm-hmm.
to a particular period of time. And then after
Right.
that, we're back at the cashier's cage and off we go. We're done. Then we'll hang out, have dinner, and hang out and just shoot the shit for a while.
Right.
Then eventually I get a text from my wife says, "Are you coming home today?"
Ever? Yeah. Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I see
That's
it the same way. I definitely see place bets and comebacks as being the way to approach at least a two-person team.
uh
And I can see leveling between that the way that you'd
Yeah.
work it. And I can actually see people playing comebacks staggered. Like I'll
Yes.
take the first two, or
Yep.
I'll take three, and you wait two, and then take three after me, and you're going to kind of catch. You're going to catch what you're going to catch as they come. I think that's actually an interesting way of approaching like a 7 to 9. Everything I do is 7 to 9
Well,
rolls, right? I figure that's
it's also another way that we beat the table max.
mm-hmm. Sure.
So, and you asked me a conversation one time we had at night was how do you beat table max?
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
We've talked about it, right? And I talked
Hmm.
to David about it once too. It's like, or what can you do? Because if my casinos here, when you come out here, you'll see they're $500 table max,
Hmm.
right? So if you're got a decent bankroll and you're coming out a little bit hot, you can hit table max in a couple of shots. And then what do you do?
Quick.
Right?
Yeah.
Where are
Hit
you
it
going
fast.
next? Well, the best you can do is do a put bet. And once that's maxed out, the best
Correct.
you can do is the big 6 and 8. And then you're like, at least you got like, here comes the porn stars again.
I
At
told you
least you
that's what I
got,
did, right?
yeah, that's exactly the way you do it. And but the interesting thing is with the put bets here. I asked a dealer friend of mine, you can't go max bet on the put and then also put odds on it. The total bet has to be. So the best you can do is like $100 flat and then $400 in odds or something along those lines, depending on the number.
Oh, for the
For the
table max,
put,
you mean?
yeah, for table max on a put bet, you
That's
have to
correct.
basically, as low as you can on the flat and max the odds out on it. That's the only way to get
Correct.
there because you can't exceed total
Correct.
unless, I've heard of
Now
places that let you do it.
some casinos won't allow you to do that though either,
Mhm.
because you're the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
player with
They'll
the
say
same
max to a
bankroll.
number.
That's
Yeah,
right.
well, they'll also say max dollars to a number
Hmm.
versus max per bet. So you can do
Correct.
a place and a put unless they tell you you can't, max to a number.
Correct.
And if they know you're sharing bankroll, then you certainly can't do it.
That's right. Well,
You know.
that's why it's better to go with a team. Now,
Hmm.
currently it's hard to find, those guys that'll be consistent, or that you can
Hmm.
trust, really, that more than anything else, or just you like hanging out with, that's all in
Yeah.
the same city. For me, Mike and I go way back, so I know he's not going to steal from me.
Hmm.
And I won't steal from him either. It's just
Right.
we just have fun, man. We just have fun. Anytime you can make a good outing, and it's your kind of like what you guys did when y'all went to I don't know if you went to Nevada or Las Vegas with
Yeah, it
the
was
crew.
Reno. Yeah. Yep.
Reno, y'all had a good time, and everybody won money, and it was great.
Hmm.
That's the best time anyone can have. It's the best
It
thing
was
you can ask
awesome.
for.
It was awesome. It was the best
Hmm.
time because it was people, right? It wasn't just me
Yeah.
going to work,
Well,
which
what's
can be.
neat about the more people you have at your table, and everybody's playing a different strategy. If somebody has a just a bad luck on the dice, right, a bad draw,
Hmm.
you can make that guy whole again. You can make
Yeah.
that person whole on your team, and everybody has that same understanding, which is okay. We all bought in with $500, and we got 2 grand total action between the whole crew. Anything above 2,000, fantastic. We make sure that everybody's clean at 500 each that you walked in with,
Hmm.
and then we divvy up the profits. You know,
Yeah,
that's the best way to do it. The more people you have, the better.
for
With
sure.
two,
Well, you cover so
it's
much
fun.
different stuff. Yep.
Oh God, you cover a lot of ground that way.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, when we were in Reno, one of the things that happened, which I'm sure doesn't happen, it happened for a minute and they kind of shut it down. But we, Brian's here. How many people shot
Yep.
from stick left one that night? Like we kept changing spots. Like whenever somebody else's turn to shoot, we just switch with them. And they
Yeah,
would
and see,
take,
you're lucky
you
that the
know,
casino would let you do that.
they
Most
let us do
casinos
it.
don't let you do that.
They let us do it until they brought the dishwasher out to try and chop the roll up. I mean, it was a,
Yeah, they don't let you do
they didn't like it
that.
after after a hot minute for
Take it,
sure. So
yeah, take it from me. Most casinos will not let you bring 10 people and you can all take 10 stabs at the same place. They won't let you do
exactly. Yeah, they didn't care too
that.
much early
I
on.
play a lot
They
in
cared more.
Biloxi. They'd kick you out.
Hmm. Yeah, and it wasn't even a private table. We just were just playing, and it was like they didn't really
Yeah,
seem to care. So it was that, but it made it fun. It was kind of one of those things. It was all hooting and hollering and having a good old time, and
yeah,
it was clearly not a shared bankroll team type of thing. So that was pretty fun.
yeah. I mean, we all bring our own money to the table, and we all bring our own, uh, extra, which is our oh shit money.
Hmm.
But when we decide we're going to play as a team, then we all pony up the exact same amount, and then we all play responsible, hopefully, and
Yeah.
just kind of make it work. But if you're there to have fun and you're not you're pooling your bankroll, and you guys want to just have fun as a group, then do what we do. Instead of us standing side by side, I stand on one side, he stands on the other. So
Hmm.
we've got minimal amount of shooters in between us.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
Because my
You
boy
don't got
can
to
shoot.
wait for six people to come before,
Yeah,
yeah, because and then it's you guys back to back, and then that's it. That makes sense. Yep.
yeah,
And Ferdinand says that this is true too, right? If you're looking to control dice here, keep the landing zone clear.
that's right. Yeah, it depends where you shoot. Like that's why I shoot into the mixing bowl.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I love shooting in there. You can't put money in there.
Yeah, but and what's funny is so many people say avoid that thing, and it actually does keep the dice pretty still. You watched
Keeps
Ed
them tighter.
today roll to win. I mean, he was hammering that hook today,
Yeah,
and those dice just sat down. It was great.
yeah. When I did my Field of Dreams video, I was shooting from stick left one or two, and tossed them right into that corner.
Mm-hmm.
It was money. It's the way
Sweet
I've
money.
shot them for. I either shoot them from the end of the table and let them roll out, or I try to put it really close and tight into the mixing bowl, one of the
Mm-hmm.
two sides. For me, it just gets better results based on my mechanics and how I toss the dice. Right.
Mm-hmm.
After a
Oh,
while,
Sam.
you get to know. Yeah, after a while, you get to know how your dice react to how you're tossing. Right.
Right. Right. Sam wants to know what is the mixing bowl?
It's what you put a cake mix in. Mixing bowl is the rounded part of the table that supposedly will make those dice jumble up. That's what they call the mixing bowl.
Oh.
But it actually, if you the closer to that rounded piece you get, the better off it is. Now, I will
Mhm.
say this kind of interesting about a casino in Kansas City. Uh, this is kind of an odd looking table. It didn't have quite the corners that most tables have. They were elongated, kind of weird.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it didn't have a true
Not like
radius.
not really tight. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it didn't have a true radius on it. It was more like an oval. It was
Hmm.
odd. I'd never seen one like that. I can't remember the name of the casino I was at, but one of the guys there was a regular, and he was he was telling everybody how to shoot on the table, right? This is how you do it.
Local yokel. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He was the coach. He was the table coach,
Right.
and he
There's always
tells
that
me he says,
guy at the local casino.
yeah, and I don't mind him either, right? Because
Mhm.
you tell me how to play on your home court field, I'm great. But when you start like overdoing it, buddy, it gets a little
Yeah.
off. So he was telling me, hey, this table here, you got to shoot right here and let it kind of roll in, almost like a ramp on a highway, right?
Hmm.
And sure as shit, it worked. I
That's
don't know how,
interesting.
but it worked. It was weird because I tried going right into the corner like I typically do,
When if
and
there's no
it was
corner,
it was
you're not going to get that
disastrous. Yeah,
action. Yeah.
no
That's
true
interesting.
radius. It didn't stop the dice. It popped them everywhere.
Hmm.
So,
Hey, Jeremy from Color Up just showed up. He's at the airport.
oh, all right.
So you
Glad
mind
he
if
had
we
a
cut
safe
short here
flight.
and I bring him in for a little bit
No,
before he
do your
flies
thing.
out? Is that cool?
Get him in. Get him in. Yeah, get
All right,
him
man.
in.
Hey, great talking to you. Always great talking to you. I'm glad we got to talk in front of everybody, and now the world knows you're coming back. El
I'll be
Toro's
back.
back, coming out of
I'll be back.
retirement. Yeah, man. All right,
All right.
we will
Be
chat
good.
later. Hopefully, I'll see you soon, bud.
All right. Peace.
All right, you got it.